ManUP Show, broadcasting on Bible Radio, live from Sojourners Cafe. And now, your hosts, the Gunny and the Doc.
C-130 rolling down the trail. C-130 rolling down the trail. U.S. Marines gonna take a little trail. U.S. Marines gonna take a little trail.
Hey, welcome to the ManUP Show. Hey, this is your host, the Gunny. And tonight, I have with me my son, Bernard Trey.
Yay!
How you doing?
Great.
Good. Don't mess with your mic, though. That's really loud. So keep your hands off your mic. Hey, tonight I'm going to play for you. I was at a conference out in Calvary Chapel, Philly, and General Boykin. Do you know who General Boykin is?
No.
No. He gave a talk out there, and it was really, 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 really good. And today he's talking on this one. It's on courage. So for men, courage. We need courage, right, Trey? Want to be courageous?
No, that's not good.
No?
No.
No, it is good. You want to be courageous.
Fine, I'll be
Courageous.
nice.
All right, so we're going to listen to General Boykin. Hey, we're updating the website. I'm going to put all our stuff up on a bunch of not all of them. I mean, we've been doing this for 2.5 years now. Got a lot of shows, and we're going to be playing them on, we're going to put them up on Spreaker.
Okay.
So that'll be coming very shortly. I am headed to the Mache conference this weekend, and there's a speaker down there that does the talks on men, to men, not on men, to men, and I want to try to get an interview with him while I'm down there. So be praying I get that, and then next week we can play that interview. But all this stuff will be up on Spreaker, so you'll be able to go to manupshow.org. I'll have a link over to our Spreaker page, and you'll be able to subscribe there. So then every time a show comes up, you'll be able to just go ahead and it'll send it to you and let you know that there's a show available there. And also, once we get the group back together here, all the guys on the ManUP Show, we are going to be able to record live. So you'll be able to, we'll put it up on the website when we're going to record live. But you'll then be able to call in or, chat on the site. You'll be able to sign on to Spreaker and then chat as we're doing the show and ask questions, make comments, whatever. So that'll be really cool. That'll add a whole new aspect to it. So that won't be, we'll broadcast what we record on Bible Radio, but you'll be able to participate in the show live while we're recording it, and then we'll put that on there. So, all right, so go to our website, keep updated on it, manupshow.org. I'm going to start the General Boykin, talking about men being courageous men. All right, Semper Fi. Talk to you next week. Here we go.
You know, I'm not here to proselytize for this church. I know the pastor of this church, and I have known him for a number of years now, and I know that he is a man of great courage. And I think as an example to others, he has demonstrated the kind of courage that is essential to America today. One of the things that I am so tired of hearing is I'm tired of hearing Christians, well-meaning, good-hearted Christians, say two things. One is, well, I just believe the church should stay out of politics. I'm not here to advocate for either party. I am not here to tell you who to vote for, but let me tell you something. There are a couple of things you need to understand. I have a undergraduate degree in English. I have a master's degree in management, and I just as of October, I got my PhD in ministry. If I could do it all over again, I would go back and I would consistently study history. Because you see, here's my Bible. And I read this Bible. Unlike most Christians, frankly, I read it. But here's another document that is also a very important document, and it's called the Constitution of the United States. And you know what? You know where this came from? It came from this. As John Adams said, the pulpits have thundered with the ring of freedom. And every freedom that was articulated in this document came out of a sermon that was derived from this document. We need to understand that America was created as a Judeo-Christian nation, a light on a hill. And those founding fathers were men of faith. Those 56 men were men of faith. Men that believed that they wanted to leave a legacy for all posterity, for generations to come, of a nation where freedom abounded, a nation where God was honored, a nation that was founded on the principles of this book. And this is it, the Constitution of the United States. So when I hear people say, I don't believe the church should be involved in politics, if you preached a sermon about life a decade ago, it would have been considered a biblical issue. If you preach a sermon today on life and the sanctity of life, it's considered political. If you preached a sermon a decade ago about the sanctity of marriage and about what a marriage is, it would have been considered a biblical issue. Today it is considered a political issue. Folks, do not be deceived. Do not go down the road of saying the church should not be involved in politics, because the reality is it was the church that brought about the founding of this nation through these people called the Black Robe Regiment. The British called the pastors in the colonies the Black Robe Regiment. And they even said, were it not for the Black Robe Regiment, those colonies would still be part of the United Kingdom, part of the British Empire. Don't go down that road. The second thing that I am distressed over when I hear Christians say this is that God is in control. Oh yeah, I believe God's in control. But normally what that is it's a code for, therefore, I don't have to do anything. God works through us, men. You're the men. I thought Sandy's message this morning was so good as he told you the role of the men is leadership. And we have ceded that to our female counterparts. Look, I love my wife. And she's out there at the book table, and if any of you Marines go out there hitting on her, I'm going to come after you. I love my wife, but we understand clearly that my role is that of leadership. And we've got to make sure that we understand that God has called us to be leaders. And when we say God is in control, well, God is in control. That normally means I'm just going to wait for the rapture. I'm going to sit on the pew of the church and I'm going to do nothing. And what it really means is I don't have the courage in this day and age to stand and be counted. Pastor Joe and I, when my session is over, will stay up here for about a half hour and talk to you about questions that you might have about what's going on in Syria, what's going on with ISIS, what can we expect of Russia in the future. And there are clearly, I think, some implications biblically of what we see unfolding right now. But you know why Russia is doing what they're doing? They're doing it because they can, because they see no courage in America. We have a huge crisis in courage in America. And that includes and is predominantly within the church. The lack of courage among not just the pastors across this man is unusual. I'm telling you, this man is unusual. And I will also say this, since many of you are not from this church, I don't know what church you go to. But if you go to a church where your pastor does not have the courage to stand up and preach the whole truth, biblical truth, then find another church. But you cannot afford to waste a single day now under the leadership and the tutelage of a pastor that will not stand up and be bold and tell you the whole truth and tell you what's going on in this country and tell you what's going on in the world and tell you that how it aligns with biblical prophecy and how it aligns with biblical truth. Don't waste your time in a church like that. Go find a church where the pastor and the leadership of that church will stand up and be bold in their faith and demonstrate the kind of courage that you need to have as an individual Christian, as a person that has committed your life to Christ and has made Jesus the center of your life. He's made him what they call the Lord of your life. Don't waste your time there. Go find a church where you can hear the truth and where you can see the demonstration of courage. Many of you who have read my autobiography, Never Surrender, will have it outside there. You know that I was a commander of the events that you now know as Black Hawk Down, as portrayed in that movie, and it was actually, the movie was very accurate, by the same name, Black Hawk Down. The day after that firefight on the 3rd of October, 1993, after I lost 15 of my men, if you've heard my personal testimony, I was absolutely devastated by the loss of my men. I actually had a crisis of faith. That's another message altogether. I had an absolute crisis of faith. As I said, where were you, God? How could you let this happen? And I ultimately concluded there is no God. But I recovered from that very quickly, and it made a huge difference in my life. And if you haven't had a crisis in faith, you will. All of you will. It's natural. Even pastors have crises in faith. But the next day, as we did our ceremony there and honored our dead, we sang God Bless America. We played taps. We honored our dead there. That night, just as the sun went down, I was standing talking to two of my men that had survived that terrible firefight there. And just as the sun went down, all of a sudden there was a huge explosion, and I was knocked out for just a moment. I went down, and when I stood to my feet, I looked down and I saw the man that I was talking to laying there dead. And it was only in August of this year that I actually began to share this with people. I didn't even talk to my wife about it. But I lived with a huge question in my life. Why not me, God? Why not me? Why did you take him and not me? I was only a foot from him. Why did you let him die, God, and not me? Why did I survive? Why? He has young children, God. Mine are all out of the home. Why did he die and I survived? Why, God? Why? I don't understand this. And I asked that question for a long time until the 15th of August of 2012. I am now the Executive Vice President of the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C., with a great leader and a Marine named Tony Perkins. At 10:41 in the morning, a man walked into our lobby there at the Family Research Council and set his backpack down and reached in his backpack and pulled out a 9mm pistol just as our building manager walked up to him, and he fired the first round just by Leo Johnson's head. It went like this. Leo reached up with his arm to grab the pistol. The second round went into Leo's arm, and then Leo wrestled him to the ground with one arm, and he fired a third shot that ricocheted off the floor and went into the building. Leo got the pistol away from him with one arm, pointed it at his head to kill him, and then said, "The Lord told me not to shoot him." He spared the man's life. I rushed into the lobby just as Leo was kicking the pistol away, blood everywhere. He targeted us because he called us a hate group. He said that because he had found us listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center on their hate map as an anti-LGBT hate group, he targeted us, and he told the judge that he was going to kill as many of us as possible. His primary targets were me and Tony Perkins. He was going to kill as many of us as possible, and then he was going to take one of the Chick-fil-A sandwiches in his bag, and he was going to smear it in the face of all of those